please welcome our next speaker, Aquanza Cadogan.
Breathe deep from your diaphragm. Center yourselves, then exhale. Those were the instructions of my middle school band teacher who reminded us the instrument was useless until you filled it with air. But it needed to come from here, a place where love and compassion lived. When my parents moved my sister and I to the small community of Pine Hills, I was a young man desperately searching for those two things, love and compassion. It was a neighborhood where North Pine Hills Road intersected with Silver Star, and for survival, you'd better learn how to survive. The lessons I learned in that neighborhood would shape my life forever. I encountered racism for the first time. It was in middle school the kids would tell me I talked funny. I dressed different. I wasn't black enough. It's funny how cruel life can be when you constantly have to defend yourself. How loud that voice in your head became when everyone was laughing at you. Go ahead, take my lunch money. Copy my homework, I don't care. Take whatever you want. Just don't take my clarinet. The truth was, my parents were aspiring middle class, and while many of the students in the school looked just like me, the aspirations of my parents to do better was enough to be bullied and teased. It was the first time I learned hate, and I realized once it infected here, there was very little that could be done. But then I found refuge in my middle school band program. I was a scrawny kid with braces whose best friends were Jewish and Puerto Ricano. But in that band room, I discovered sound had no color. Music didn't care how much money you had or what neighborhood you lived in. The individual made sound, but the collective made music. And in order to make good music, you needed to hear the person to the left of you. You needed to listen to the person to the right of you. Adjust your pitch, change your tune for the sake of sound. Like this. Mother, mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you dying. The 1971 song by Marvin Gaye reminds us that only love can conquer hate. But there's so much hate. No one's interested in harmony. So I set out to create a new sound. The Big Brothers and Big Sisters program gave me access to a new world of musicians. Some whose pitch was a little too high. Their notes were a little too sharp. So as I was taught, I reminded them, breathe deep from your diaphragm. Center yourselves, then exhale. You are the instrument. And until you fill yourself with positivity, you're part of the problem. The world doesn't owe me a thing. In fact, no one owes me a damn thing. Those were the words of Dr. Marilyn Thomas Houston, my African-American studies professor at the University of Florida. She would tell me those words when I got angry at America's past and wanted to place blame. Oh, but there's so much noise. Too much, build that wall. Too many sons of bitches not kneeling during the anthem. Distractions. Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water. Gun control in America is out of control, and no one's talking about the opioid epidemic. It's our young people who are suffering with this anger and hate, this bullying and blame. Young people who are filled with some of the most amazing sounds you've ever heard. We just have to listen. Give them the right instruments. Start providing an oasis in the middle of chaos. Let's remind them that the individual makes sound, but the collective makes music. And in order to make good music, you needed to hear the person to the left of you. You needed to listen to the person to the right. Adjust your pitch. Change your tune for the sake of humanity. Well, let's drown out that noise. with humanity. Like our community rallied behind one another after the tragic shooting at Pulse nightclub here in Orlando. Or how the nation rallied behind one another after the senseless shootings in Las Vegas and recently in Texas. Our kids are watching. Your niece, your nephew, your grandkids. Hell, the world is watching. If we really want things to change, we need to change the narrative, change the tone, become conductors to a better soundtrack of life. But the clarinet is just a symbol. Our thinking, our actions, our voice can all be instruments for change, tools to orchestrate a little love and compassion. Let's create a world that plays a symphony of positivity. We are the instruments. And until we fill ourselves with a little love and compassion, we're part of the problem. The time to change our young people is now. The time to change our way of thinking is now. How do we build better men? We remind them that the individual makes sound, but the collective makes music. And in order to make good music, you need to hear the person to the left of you. You need to listen to the person to the right of you. Adjust your pitch. Change your tune for the sake of humanity. How do we do that? We breathe deep from our diaphragm. Center ourselves, then exhale. But it needs to come from here. A place where love and compassion lives.